Okay, today is Thursday, July the 16th, 2026. Look at me, Natalie the Good Shepherd, with my notes everywhere. And yet I smile because I've come to learn that, well, yes, today is July the 16th, 2026. And since I met Jesus on January 28th, 2022, 4.5 years ago, I've come to realize we don't really need anything we think we need. And I used to rely on my notes like my notes were my Bible. Now I simply have them as a means of preparing myself for such moments to hit the record button and continue carrying onward, upward, shepherd. I'm going to go ahead and dive right in right now. These videos are for myself, and so I don't do these videos like with, thoughts of, the world of social media, like, oh, what are they going to think? I simply share it with social media. And yet these videos in particular of my shared death experience, these are for me. There are 11 questions from an organization called the Shared Death Project. Shared Crossing Project, rather. Last night, July the 15th, I myself joined in as a passenger. Nobody muted, nobody special, Natalie, on my third Zoom virtual, video where there is a guest speaker, somebody sharing their experience. It does take me time when I start these videos to kind of calm myself down. It's not about calming myself down so much as it's about aligning myself. It is close to, well, it's after 8 p.m. actually. I got the sheep to bed already. The dogs have been fed, but not Juno, my one livestock guardian dog. I don't know where she is. I'm getting ready to bring my baby bantam chicks back in for the night. Coop number 5. This is how I roll as being the Good Shepherd here to my small hobby farm of over 62 animals. 42 of those animals are birds. And of those 42 birds, there are 11 roosters. So I've got my hands full and I love it all. I do save all of these videos to, created playlists on my YouTube, on my Facebook. I don't think there's like playlists on Facebook, but on my YouTube and on my TikTok, I save to a playlist titled Shared Death Experience. Today I also had my number 100 virtual behind Barnway, where I am right here and always am, virtual BTF, Best Therapist Friend, therapy session with a very dear therapist named Kathy. 100 sessions, well, that's 100 weeks, yes? And for someone like me who grew up being, I'm not going to use the word forced, but, led to, you need to do these therapy sessions pretty much my whole life. I never found a therapist that I really thought was worthwhile of even seeking such therapy. And then when I met Kathy 100 weeks ago, that was during a time in my life that also is a result of this shared death experience with my father-in-law named JC, who does share the same initials as Jesus Christ. And it was then that I did meet Jesus Christ as well on January the 28th, 2022, while my father-in-law was dying and yet alive, and I was on interstate roads and he was in his bed in his home, and yet his soul found his way to be with me in ways that I knew without knowing were beyond real, beyond surreal, beyond awesome, beyond amazing. These moments were like, whoa. People in life who do drugs and want to get high, well, January the 28th, 2022 for me, I'm like, if this is what drugs do to make people high, then I can understand why they do drugs. Yet, to me, I knew that was not a drug. definitely wasn't a drug. I had just stopped taking lithium after being on it for 17 years, as well as being on many other, psychiatric prescribed medications for, being diagnosed with bipolar. And, well, it's been 4.5 years since I came off of lithium, and 4.5 years that I've had a multitude of doctors beyond psychiatry, regular MDs, and other such therapists and persons in the medical field who have been in AWE as well, of everything that has aspired. It's not just about me, and yet in my life, yes, I'm the one sharing. Whoa, Natalie. Whoa. Yeah, I know. It's kind of awful to have a diagnosis of something that's not real. Many years ago, my own oldest daughter was diagnosed with a condition, and yet that doctor told my daughter at that point, and I wasn't a part of any of this, my daughter did this all on her own, and this doctor told my daughter, yes, you have this, and yet I'm not going to diagnose you with this because it's incurable. You're not going to die from this. And I, as a doctor, don't want you as a young person living the rest of your life with that label of this being your diagnosis of this condition. There is a God? Yes. After last night's third myself joined in shared death experience Zoom virtual call, listening to the guest speaker and hearing her story, which was so touching, so beyond moving. Well, this is now 3 stories of such persons that are strangers to me. I don't know anything. I don't have any connection with any of these persons, and yet simply hearing their stories, I've been able to, as Natalie myself, beyond say wow and whoa, I've been able to, oh my God, make further sense of a whole life that has been lived in such, to me, beautiful ways always, and yet you do. I'm not angry with anybody. Number 4, question number 4. For the Shared Crossing Project, there are 11 questions total, 7 minutes in, 8 minutes. I'm going to start with question number 4, and this is a big one. I am unscripted, so I have a couple of notes, but I have no idea where I'm going to even go with answering this once I ask this question right now. This is where I know that I am assisted by heaven, because all of this is about heaven. There is no way that Natalie, I would sit behind a barn, as busy as I am, busy as a bee, and loving my life, and going through everything that I'm going through in my life. There's no way I'd sit back here and spend an hour, a half an hour, on doing something that heaven's not having me do in such ways as answering these questions. As I explained and shared with my BTF best therapist friend today, Kathy, on our 100th therapy visit, I do talk to angels as well, and this therapist of mine is fully aware of everything of Natalie, including my esophagus issues, my partial mastectomy, my near-death experiences, multiple of them, and this shared death experience. I'm having an esophagus issue, hold on. It's like a burp, I just need to burp. Question number 4. There's the burp. What are the important circumstances surrounding your story? Health challenges, accidents, family dynamics, family events. That's where I say, holy shit. What? No way. No way could I answer this question like in a video in 30 minutes or less. So what I did first is what I do with everything in life, and this is what it all began with me when I met Jesus 4.5 years ago. Natalie, you need to redefine your life. Redefine. redefine the words of life, redefine the emotions of life. You're no longer on lithium. You need to understand what you really are feeling. This is where I understand, and I don't blame, shame, or judge anybody in my family ever. Ever. Never have. I never have. It is what it is. I'm the one who swallowed the pills. I'm a big girl, right? I never questioned it. And with my hindsight, I'm grateful, because I do believe heaven had me take these medications in order to keep me on some sort of a path that was going to keep me essentially, alive. And here now I am rolling into my purpose in life at the age of 53 as the Good Shepherd Natalie. A role, not a title, a messenger to life, a child of God, a beautiful soul. Me. The first thing I did was define the word circumstances. Circumstances. What were the circumstances? Look, I can't even find that note now because I'm just all over the place. I'm hearing my baby bantams. They want to go in. I just have circumstances. Well, circumstances are, what happened here? Well, the circumstances surrounding my story, which is beyond a story. I am a writer, and yet I have not been able to really write since meeting Jesus 4.5 years ago during this SDE, shared death experience, of which my hindsight does have me know I have had my whole life so many, countless, endless shared death experiences with both humans and animals in particular. This particular moment with my father-in-law on January the 28th, 2022, this was beyond pivotal. This was a moment I met Jesus, and me, Natalie, being Natalie, a spiritual person, yet not like, one of those, whoever else those, just Natalie. You get what you get, I'm unscripted, I'm unedited, I have bra straps falling out all the time on me, and I'm a little farm girl, and I am little, and I've struggled a pig long life, and I'm not exactly always happy to be so little, for health condition reasons. And yet, since I met Jesus, all of my sickness has been a sickness that has been like, whoa, I know I'm sick. I know. What do you mean? Well, I know because I'm sick and I feel it. And yet, still I wake up without an alarm every morning, and literally my feet hit the floor with a joy every day for the past 4.5 years, and even prior to meeting Jesus, truthfully. Like a child on Christmas morning, excited to see what awaited me for each day. Well, I had many health challenges. That's the first thing it says. What were some health challenges? Well, many years prior to this moment with my father-in-law, I had other issues, endometriosis, several laparoscopic surgeries, and after a couple of those laparoscopic surgeries, my OBGYN was like, there's no way this endometriosis is back right now. There's no way, Natalie. Like, there's no way. I just did surgery 3 weeks ago. And then there's me crying at this point, and then, she goes back in again, and it's there again. Very painful journey, my endometriosis years. That was before I got pregnant, so that was many years ago. My oldest daughter is now, she was born in 2000, so she's now 26. My meningitis, I am one of 6, not one in, one of 6 in the world. Some 18 years later, after I got meningitis 3 times and nearly died my first time. to have a condition called amoxicillin-induced meningitis. I had a sinus infection 3 times in that year, and each time I had a sinus infection, it was amoxicillin. It was the first round that put me into a state that put the CDC on alert for what is going on here. We don't even know this girl's gonna die. We can't help her. She's not responding to the highest level of, bacterial meningitis antibiotics, and yet we're not finding anything that's claiming, scientifically, medically speaking, that it's bacterial. So therefore it's viral. And yet this is not the way viral persons respond. So this has been the story of my life. Even my endometriosis years, the meningitis. I also had encephalitis at that time, swelling of the brain, as well as I did go into I think a 3-day slumber at that point, like my COVID slumber, and yet this was a coma with my meningitis and encephalitis. I was not expected to survive. People can have near-death experiences and not come back to share stories. It's not that I came back from that moment of meningitis and was like, oh, I saw the light, or, oh, I knew I was dying. No, nope, nothing of that. I was just like, oh my God, I'm like 92 pounds. I'm a size 0. I took a few selfies. This was like way back then before there was like easy to take selfies. I was like, I look back at those pictures now and I think, wow, I was really sick then. And that was a long time ago. And then my whole hindsight begins to accumulate and I go, whoa, I've been sick my whole life. Going in for a normal breast biopsy. I'd had many breast biopsies, coming out and them saying, we're so sorry. It was much larger than we expected, this mass. And we were really concerned about it turning into cancer. We went ahead and took it all out. And by taking it all out, they took out like more than a quarter of my breast. And and my nipple just disappeared, concaved. And at the same time, I went home from that procedure that day with mastitis, as well as some other infection I can't remember, where my breast just was so swollen. It was like, oh my God, like it was beyond mastitis. And I remember mastitis being a nursing mother. This was like, whoa. I mean, they had me on painkillers that were doing nothing for the pain, and I just had to sit there on my bed and just like not move. At the same time, that infection became so bad that it actually burst a hole into my breast, and I had a hole. Like I had a hole in my breast. The breast doctors and nurses showed me how to pack it every day, clean it and gauze it, pack it, and then pull it out each day, cut it with scissors to pull out it. They're like, what? I went to weekly breast doctor visits then. I couldn't believe that this breast doctor, I trusted them for 10 years in Florida, and I couldn't believe when I left Florida, like, why didn't they ever say, can we help fix this? I'm somebody who has like skin damage, sun damage here on my face and neck, like brown spots, and you can't do anything about it. I've never cared. And like everybody can see this. Nobody's gonna see my breast. For some reason, that really, really has, I was referred to the CDC for them as well. You're not responding to antibiotics in the way you should. I don't respond to antibiotics. Dear Lord, and yet dear Lord apparently has a reason for me to still be here. And this is what this moment with my father-in-law continues to present to me in such ways of knowing without knowing. And it's really hard to share such things with life because you do sound crazy. I was diagnosed with achalasia at that point as well. I began to choke or drown. I didn't know which or whenever I was drinking water in particular. And my husband had to give me the Heimlich maneuver many times in the middle of the night. Very scary, very, 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 very scary, very scary. And you can't move when these moments happen. And I was so grateful my husband was there. And I got all the tests and the endoscopies, and finally, they sent me off for a further testing, and that's, you have a condition called achalasia. That's a rare condition. I had surgery done on my esophagus called Heller's myotomy, where they cut off the base of my esophagus, pulled my stomach up to act as the suction, and that was supposed to take care of all the issues of me choking. It actually made everything worse. This is what I'm getting at. This is what I'm sharing all of this for, because number 4, this question is really big, because what has happened is that moment for me, I knew, and I still know, I was fueled while in bed with COVID and prepared for this, catapulting into life for heaven's purposes on life without needing to know why, and just there. And yet also, boom, immediately seeing I began to lose my family. I began to get sick. I began to, all these things, like, boy, what is going on here? I met Jesus. My life is like beautiful. I could see, I could feel. I stopped lithium. Everything is grand and beautiful. And yet, oh my God, it's not. My life became and continues 4.5 years later. And yet, with hindsight, I see it's been my whole life. Catastrophic? No. This is where I have now come to that point in my life of redefining every word. And so catastrophic to me, that's a tsunami. I mean, a real tsunami. And I'm not afraid of a tsunami here in central North Carolina. Catastrophic, no. And yet, yes, moments of such sickness. I recently, this past winter, came down. I got very sick. I was alone. My family has pretty much, thrown me away, outcast me. I'm not a part of anybody's life in my family. I've remained silent and quiet and peaceful and respectful during the past 4.5 years. I still can't quite understand, how I could be treated like a criminal, like worse than a criminal. And after 33 years spending my life with somebody, to feel like I feel like a squatter now. These are things I go, I don't understand, heaven, and yet I don't ask heaven why. This is pivotal to question number 4. Accidents. There was no accidents in my life at that point. My daughter did get into 2 accidents back to back the same day, April, back to back years in her car. She was protected both those times, and she actually did share with me, at least during one of those accidents, that she did see our neighbor Deb, who is an angel in heaven, who was our neighbor and who I was with as she took her final breath in the hospital. She died from a rare case of salmonella the CDC couldn't classify. I was a witness to taking her off of life support, and Deb was with me during that moment. I've had a lot of these moments, and I never ever thought family dynamics. Well, as soon as my husband and daughters left to come up here, before I met Jesus in 2022, January at the end, my husband had already begun to shut me out. I had begun to see my husband shutting me out about 3 years prior to his father dying. I have a big background in psychology, sociology, in particular working with the elderly population in hospital settings. And it's been 4.5 years of me witnessing in fully aware ways, and also knowing I can't do anything to help my own family. I'm watching this all demise, and I'm being totally like, I don't even understand. It doesn't make sense. And yet I witnessed it all, and I was like graciously accepting it all. And so now I'm at a point feeling like heaven was like, well, you all needed this. It's never about one person. It's not about you, Natalie. It's about you and your family. And yes, you needed time, Natalie, and you weren't getting time. Because as soon as all this happened, the ball kept rolling. My mother then had a heart attack. We had just moved here into my husband's childhood home with his mother, my mother-in-law. Not a good relationship to begin with, like is with all most classic mother-in-law, daughter-in-law relationships. And here I am moving into her domain with a farm, no less. It's been a 3-year journey in hell, to be honest. And, you know, with, to me, no blame on anybody else, and yet to me, I'm the one who the police get called on, you know, for having moments of outbursts, you know, crying, because I've been told to be silent for 3 years. So I do hide behind this barn, and this has become my home base back here. I do love my family, and yet what is love? Well, I do know what love is, and I'm not being loved by family, that's for sure. Accidents, that's it. Family dynamics. My mother had a heart attack. My father, you know, had something. We had just moved here. We were forced into renovations to turn the basement into a barn dominium. Like, you better get this done now. And it's like, oh, yeah. I mean, all this began so fast, you know. And then my mom, the heart attack. And so I drive up to Maryland from North Carolina. I thought I was staying for a week. I packed for 10 days just to be safe. I ended up being there for 2.5 months, caring for both of my parents, who for a great deal of that 2.5 months were bedridden. There was a bed brought downstairs for my father. Heavy, going through all these different journeys with my family. I'm not going to get into detail because it is private and I don't share everything. I don't. And yet the dynamics, the circumstances are of vital importance. I was there to care for my parents. I felt honored. I felt blessed. And when I left there after 2.5 months, I thanked heaven, because I'd been thanking heaven every day, saying, I know it's by the grace of God I'm still here, because there's no way I could survive my mom for 3 days or more. 2.5 months, I was, you know, grocery shopping, doing, you know, cooking meals, doing more for my parents at that point than I'd ever probably done for both of my daughters in all their growing up years. And yet I was fully aware during those times with my parents. Whoa, this is beyond Natalie. Natalie, you're just a mere vessel. You're just doing these things. Whoa, this is beautiful. Honored. I left feeling like my parents finally know who Natalie is. Their middle child. I am beyond love. Returning here, the renovation's done. You know, it's been a nightmare. It's been a nightmare. It's been a nightmare. And we ultimately did everything that you shouldn't do when somebody dies for 1 year. And we did everything. Sold a home, rented a farm, moved in with a mother-in-law, quit a job. My husband. My daughters, who I'd been raising for the first 20 years of their lives, taken from me. Taken from me? Well, not like taken from me, but yes, one day, hey, I got them an apartment, by the way. Isn't that great? What? No. I don't understand. And yet, here I am, the one who's lived my whole life surrounded by death and dying of animals and humans, and I do understand it, and yet I'm having the hardest time understanding it and dealing with it with my own life. It's getting really dark out here and I can't read anymore. Family dynamics, I think I went over. Family events, I think I went over. It was a really big time. It's been a big time, 4.5 years. I've been here now 3 years, living in my mother-in-law's home. I continue to be told, you know, I ain't dead yet. This ain't your home. You're not welcome here. You know, restraining order can be put on you. I mean, I live behind a barn, so I really don't understand a lot of this, the hate, and yet I do understand it because of my psychology and sociology background, so I do understand it. It's not even about me, and yet it still hurts because it is my life, and I did spend the first 30 years of my, you know, married life. We created our own life, and then we moved in here, and all of a sudden it was like, oh. And yet, look at Little House on the Prairie. Look at, what's that other show with John Boy? You know, the Partridge Family, whatever. You know, life is not perfect. It's not supposed to be perfect. These moments these questions are very important. I'm going to end this right now. Question number 4 for the shared crossing project. I'm not here seeking for myself healing. I don't need to be healed. Healed. I'm not. Oh, I've had such a hard life. Like, no. I have had a hard life. You know, that's it. I'm not here crying. I'm not here seeking further understanding. And yet, aren't I? Seeking further understanding. Of course I am. That's why I'm doing these videos. That's why I'm answering these questions and actually devoting my time and self to videoing myself 11 questions, knowing now question number 4, each of them are going to be about 30 minutes long, just like my angel messages. And I never associate time with those messages from angels either. Heaven is very particular, very specific, and there's something about 30 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and end this right now.